What's up, YouTube, and welcome to my pickups video for the month of March 2024. I did a little bit of travel this month as per usual and did a work trip to Tulsa early in the month. Didn't really find a whole lot from that trip, but I got one game to show you from that. I actually just got back from Las Vegas. I did a little bit of birthday weekend trip out there, even though I was just there a few months ago. And like I said, the last time I was in Vegas, the game stores out there just seem like weirdly wiped out. They don't have all the great stuff that they used to have, so ultimately didn't get any games from that trip. And then the other thing that took place in March was MoGameCon Jr., which is the local con in my St. Louis area. And I got a few cool games there. Actually ended up selling some stuff there. I borrowed some space from one of my friend's booths, and probably sold more than I actually bought for a change, which is kind of nice, but did find some good stuff there, so definitely was worthwhile going to that. So I'm going to show you a recent release first. I actually ended up getting this from a friend. I kind of knew this was out there on my radar a little bit, but it wasn't like super high on my priority list, and that is Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. Has this very like unreadable cover art, or game name on the cover here. It's really hard to tell what it says. But really what this is a spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio and Jet Set Radio Future, which are two of my favorite Sega games from the early 2000s. So very cool that a European developer took this on to kind of go back to that style of game with the cel-shaded graphics, skating and graffiti tagging things all over the place. Very similar set pieces in like future Japan, but it really picks up like right where the old games left off, and that the characters use things like flip phones and their CRT TVs and things like that. So it really just feels like part of the early 2000s era that they were going for. Actually, I think they did a really nice job with this. I was kind of thinking it was going to be a mixed bag. It seems like the Switch and PS5 are the ones that got retail releases in the US, but this was a special version by IM8-bit that is for the PS4, which is perfect because I don't have the other two systems, so it actually worked out well to get this. It also came with a slip sleeve, just has some more character art from the game. Again, kind of hard to actually tell what's going on there until you actually play it. But what I'll say about the game is they did a nice job, again, with the cel-shaded graphics, the level design. I would actually say it controls better than the old Jet Set Radio games, so that was definitely a big plus. The one thing I would say was kind of a letdown was the music. They kind of tried for the same style as those early games, but it just doesn't feel quite right. I know they did have a couple of the DJs that did some of the original music, composed some of the songs for this, which is cool. But by and large, it's not as great as the originals. So very cool to get this. I've been playing it quite a bit. I don't know if I'll beat it, but definitely going to invest a little bit more time in it. So very cool game, and happy that came out. I'll move on to a couple of things I got for the Turbografx and Turbo Duo this month. First one of these was one of the con finds, and this is Final Lap Twin. This is a game that doesn't really go for a whole ton of money, but it's actually really good. I've had a loose hue card of this for many, many years, and ultimately decided it's time to upgrade to a copy with the case and manual, and got a clean copy there, and then I've already sold off my loose hue card. But what this game is kind of known for is that it's a Namco release that actually has history in the arcade, but the home version is more of a car PG. So you actually do things like upgrade your car and update status and things like that. So it really does keep you playing. It has some nice addictive qualities to it. I put in a lot of time with this years ago with the loose hue card, but just nice to have a complete copy of this for now. So definitely can recommend that one if you like kind of an under-the-radar turbo game. The other thing I got, this was from the Tulsa trip, and this is a late release for the Turbo Duo, which I like to collect. All the games that are by TTI are kind of those very end-of-the-run games that came out for the US library. However, this is Sim Earth, which is not a game I probably even intend on playing. I'm not a fan of any of those Sim City type games and all those parts of the series. So unfortunately, this is not really something that's going to be up my alley, but it does come in a double jewel case just because it has a fat manual because these games are so complex. And honestly, I've heard that even for fans of Sim Earth, probably PC is obviously where it started out. I don't think this Duo version is really supposed to be all that great. So not something I'm necessarily going to put a lot of time into, but happy to get another of the late release games for the Duo. Next, we'll move on to a couple Game Boy things that I got at the con. Both of these were very much surprises. Stuff that I probably had put on my, someday list. I would want to buy these, and just seeing them in person, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm definitely getting those. So, first one of these is Rodland for the Japanese Game Boy, And this is based on a Jaleco arcade game that is a single-screen platformer like Bubble Bobble and all the other types of games that I really, really like. Definitely enjoy this game. It is also on the Famicom and the European NES. It's just we never got it in the US. And then Game Boy, kind of same story. Came out in Europe and Japan, but not US. So I don't really know why, but easy game to pick up and play. Has very little Japanese in it. And ultimately, what also is kind of weird is that a European developer actually handled the Game Boy and NES and Famicom versions of this game. So it doesn't really feel like a pure Japanese release because the music has got that awful like Codemasters NES sound to it that I really don't like. But other than that, the graphics and everything are really nice and it plays well. So very fun game to get on the Game Boy. The other way you can play this game is there is a Jaleco collection on Japanese PS1 that has several of the early Famicom games. The problem with that one, though, is it is still the Famicom version of the game. It's not the arcade version. So I do have that as well to play kind of that home version of it, but this is cool just to have a portable version of the game, too. Really cool artwork on it. I would love to own the arcade board of this. I've actually never played it, but definitely would like to track one down someday if I ever could. And then the other thing I got at the con was definitely my highlight of the day. There was a really nice seller I'd never seen before. I think he was just a local that was selling off some of his collection. And he had a lot of really nice boxed games for Super Nintendo and Genesis, and then also a whole bunch of manuals. But he had a box only that was something I would always love to have in my collection, and I was really surprised to find this. So he had Night Quest for the Nintendo Game Boy. The box is in really nice shape. This is a rare RPG by Taito, of all people, who normally doesn't do RPGs. And I've owned the cart for years. The cart is actually pretty expensive now because I think people have figured out that just like most of the early Taito stuff, they didn't print a whole lot of them, so there's a pretty hard game to find. But this one, especially in the box, is incredibly hard to get, so very happy to find this. I just need to get a manual for it. It does have all the other inserts. It has the Taito insert with upcoming games as well, but it is missing the manual, so hopefully I can track one of those down and make this complete, but very, very happy to find this. Seller gave me a great price on it. It was something that I didn't necessarily know that I was going to be getting, but very happy to find on a whim. So there is still hope for finding stuff at cons, I guess is what I would say to this. Probably something that would fly under most people's radar, but for me, this was definitely very cool to get for my Taito collection, so very happy about that. The last thing was also a con find. I love finding old magazines at cons, especially because then I don't have to pay shipping on them. There just really wasn't a whole lot there this year, unfortunately, but one thing I did see that I definitely had to get was this issue of EGM2 that has Castlevania Symphony of the Night on the cover. I think Symphony of the Night was on a lot of game magazine covers in that era, and I think I have collected all of them now. This was probably the one that I needed. Not necessarily something I was absolutely looking for, but when I saw it, I said, oh, I definitely don't have that. I'm going to go ahead and grab it. I did read this, just like most EGM2s, it's mostly a tips and tricks magazine, so it has like a lot of codes and things like that that you can easily get on the internet today. So it really doesn't stand the test of time, but it does have some footage of Castlevania in here as well for like a walkthrough, which is kind of cool. So very happy to get this. I like collecting any 90s magazines that I don't have, and always like finding some oddball stuff like this too. So that about does it. Like I said, not a huge month for pickups, but I definitely tried, so happy to get some things at the con especially, and I will say that it did run very smoothly, much better than the one we had that was the full con last late July or August, whenever it was. So hopefully they continue to do some of these con juniors, because I really like the setting where less fluff and really just vendors hanging out to sell, buy, sell, and trade. So definitely worked out well, and I enjoyed the time there. But that about does it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Please take a moment, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think. And I will talk to you soon. Have a great day or night, wherever you are.